You know that feeling when someone stops valuing you, when the calls become less frequent, the messages shorter, the effort non-existent. You start questioning everything. What changed? What you did wrong? What you could do to fix it? And in that moment, without realizing it, you shift all your power to them. You place your worth in their hands, waiting for them to decide whether you're important enough. And that right there, that's the real problem. The mistake most people make when they feel undervalued is that they double down on trying to prove their worth to the other person. They start overcompensating, texting more, being extra accommodating, letting things slide that they normally wouldn't. They chase. They try to remind the other person of what they have, thinking that if they just try a little harder, the person will see them again the way they used to. But here's the truth. Someone who has stopped valuing you isn't going to suddenly wake up and change just because you try harder. In fact, the more you chase, the more you confirm to them that they can get away with giving you less. So here's what you do instead. You shift your focus from them to you. Instead of sitting around analyzing their every action, waiting for them to text, wondering why they don't care the way they used to, you bring the attention back to yourself. You take all that energy you were pouring into them and redirect it into you. Because right now, your focus is on trying to be enough for someone else, when really the only thing that matters is being enough for yourself. Think about it. When was the last time you truly focused on yourself? When was the last time you asked, what do I need right now? What makes me happy? What excites me outside of this person? Because the moment someone stops valuing you, the biggest mistake you can make is to stop valuing yourself too. And that's what happens when you sit around waiting for their attention, waiting for their affection, waiting for them to decide whether or not you matter. When you focus on yourself instead, something incredible happens. You stop looking at their lack of effort as a reflection of your worth. You stop needing them to validate you. And as soon as you do that, the energy shifts. Instead of being the one who is always available, always trying, always giving, you become the one who is in control. And guess what? That's attractive. That's magnetic. That's when people start to take notice, not because you begged for their attention, but because you showed them that their presence in your life is optional. The reason people take others for granted is simple. They believe you'll always be there. They assume that no matter how little effort they put in, you'll keep showing up. So the moment you take your attention away and put it on yourself, it disrupts their entire pattern. They're no longer in control of the dynamic. Suddenly, you're not as accessible, and that makes them question what changed. They start to feel the absence of your energy, your kindness, your love. And the irony? That's when they start valuing you again. But here's the catch. By the time they do, you might realize you don't need their validation anymore. And that's the most powerful position to be in. When you focus on yourself, you stop settling for breadcrumbs, you stop accepting less than you deserve. Because now, your happiness isn't tied to whether or not someone else appreciates you. It's something you create for yourself. So the next time you feel undervalued, don't beg for appreciation. Don't plead for attention. Instead, become so focused on your own life, your own joy, your own growth, that their lack of effort becomes irrelevant. Because the moment you truly value yourself, you set the standard for how others will treat you. And that is when everything changes. Have you ever noticed that the more you try to prove your worth to someone, the less they seem to value you? It's one of life's strangest paradoxes. You give more, you try harder, you become more available, and yet somehow they pull away. And the moment you stop trying so hard, that's when they suddenly start paying attention. Why is that? Because attention, just like anything else, loses its value when it's given too freely. When someone starts to take you for granted, the worst thing you can do is keep throwing more of yourself at them. It's like trying to quench someone's thirst by pouring more water into an already overflowing glass. They don't need more from you. They need less. Not because playing games is the answer, but because when something is always there, it's easy to stop noticing it. Think about it. When you wear the same watch every day, do you still admire it the way you did when you first got it? When you drive the same car, do you still get excited about it like you did on the first day? No. Because when something is always available, it fades into the background. And unfortunately, people can start to do the same to each other. So what do? You pull back, not in a manipulative way, not in a way that's designed to punish them or make them feel the absence. You pull back because it's necessary for your self-respect, for your value, and for the natural balance of attraction and desire. When someone isn't treating you the way you deserve, instead of doubling down and trying harder, you step back and give them a moment to feel what it's like without your constant attention. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about playing hard to get. This isn't about mind games or making someone chase you. It's about realigning the balance. You have to remember that when a person gets too much of anything without effort, they stop appreciating it. That's just human nature. Think about the last time you finally got something you really wanted. Maybe it was a new job, a new relationship, or a new opportunity. In the beginning, you were excited, you felt grateful, and you cherished it. But over time, that excitement faded. Not because it wasn't important, but because familiarity naturally dulls the edges of appreciation. The same principle applies to relationship. When you are always the one making the effort, always the one initiating, always the one bending over backward to keep them happy, they stop noticing your value. And not because they're a bad person, but because you've created an environment where your presence is taken for granted. So the next time you feel like someone isn't valuing you, resist the urge to do more. Instead, do less. Let them feel the natural consequences of your absence. This doesn't mean you disappear completely or start ignoring them. It simply means you take a step back and redirect that energy toward yourself. Maybe you stop being the first to text. Maybe you don't always jump at the chance to make plans. Maybe you stop bending your schedule around theirs. Maybe you start focusing more on your own goals, your own interests, your own happiness. Not because you're trying to make a point, but because that's what you should have been doing all along. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop handing yourself over so easily, people start to notice. They start to realize the space you once filled. They start to remember the value you brought. Because when you give someone room to miss you, they begin to appreciate you again. It's in the absence that they remember your presence. It's in the space that they feel what they once took for granted. And if they don't notice, if they don't care, that's your answer. That's all the proof you need that you are wasting your time. Because someone who truly values you won't let your absence go unnoticed. Someone who genuinely cares won't be indifferent to the space you leave behind. So the next time you find yourself feeling undervalued, try this. Stop making them your priority when you're just their option. Pull back your attention, not out of spite, not to manipulate, but because your energy is too precious to be wasted on someone who isn't appreciating it. And when you do that, one of two things will happen. They'll either wake up and realize what they had, or you'll free yourself to find someone who never needed to be reminded of your worth in the first place. You ever notice how we spend so much time trying to make someone see our worth? We justify, we explain, we try to prove why we deserve better treatment. And in doing so, we make the fatal mistake of thinking that respect and appreciation are things that can be negotiated. But here's the truth. The moment you feel like you have to convince someone to value you, you've already lost the battle. Raising your standards doesn't mean demanding things loudly. It means expecting better and refusing to settle for less. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone truly confident begging for respect? No, because real confidence isn't loud, it's quiet, assured, and decisive. It doesn't try to persuade, it just walks away from anything that isn't right. And yet, so many of us get caught in this trap of trying to make someone understand how much effort we put in, how much we care, how much they're hurting us. But here's the thing. If someone genuinely values you, they won't need a PowerPoint presentation on why they should treat you well. They'll just do it. And I get it. It's hard to accept when someone you care about stops showing up for you the way they used to. It makes you question yourself. Question what changed, question whether you did something wrong. But the real question isn't about what changed in them, It's about what you're willing to accept. Because every time you let someone treat you as an afterthought, you send the message that you're okay with it. Every time you tolerate behavior that makes you feel small, you train them to believe that it's acceptable. Standards aren't what you say you want, they're what you actually allow in your life. So if someone is treating you like an option, the worst thing you can do is try to argue your way into becoming a priority. If they don't see your value on their own, they're not going to see it just because you explained it better. And the more you explain, the more you give them permission to continue as they are, because they see you're still there, still engaging, still investing in a dynamic that isn't serving you. The real power move isn't to get angry, it's to become indifferent. Not in a resentful way, but in a way that says, I don't need to fight for my worth, I know it already. And that's where the real shift happens. Because when you stop making excuses for someone's lack of effort, you naturally distance yourself from behavior that doesn't align with what you truly deserve. And when that happens, you create space for something better, whether that's a renewed effort from them or an entirely new connection with someone who actually sees you. See, people don't change when you tell them to. They change when they feel the shift, when they notice that your energy is no longer chasing, no longer available on demand. That's when they realize they might actually lose you. And sometimes that realization is the wake-up call they need. But whether they change or not isn't the point. The point is that you hold your ground. You don't lower your standards just to keep someone comfortable, because the moment you do, you teach them that their bare minimum is enough. And from that point on, you'll always be fighting for more while they continue to give less. So instead of asking, how can I make them see my value? Ask yourself, why am I allowing this in my life? Instead of saying, they don't appreciate me, say, I'm done giving my energy to people who don't reciprocate. And instead of waiting for them to wake up yourself. Wake up to the fact that you are in control of what you accept, and the most powerful thing you can do is quietly, confidently, and unapologetically walk away from anything that doesn't meet your standard. Because at the end of the day, real respect isn't given to the loudest person in the room. It's given to the one who doesn't settle. You know what happens when someone stops valuing you? The first instinct is often to try harder. You double down, you overcompensate, you give more, hoping that somehow, if you just do enough, they'll wake up and realize what they have in you. But let's be honest, when has that ever worked? When has bending over backward for someone who doesn't appreciate you suddenly made them see your worth? It doesn't. What it does is reinforce their behavior. It tells them that no matter how little effort they put in, you'll still be there, waiting, hoping, proving yourself. But you don't need to prove yourself to someone who genuinely values you. The real move, the thing that actually changes the game, is to step back and focus on yourself. Reignite your own life. Make your life so full, so vibrant, so exciting that their absence stops feeling like a loss. Because the truth is, when someone stops valuing you, it's usually not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their priorities, their mindset, their emotional availability. And that's something you can't control. What you can control is how much power you give them over your happiness. So instead of trying to change their perception of you, shift your attention to what makes you feel alive. What were you passionate about before they became the center of your world? What did you love doing before you started worrying about how to keep them interested? Go back to that. Invest in the friendships that make you laugh until your stomach hurts. Pick up that hobby you've been neglecting. Start building the version of yourself that doesn't need external validation to feel complete. Because when you do that, something incredible happens. People are naturally drawn to confidence, to passion, to someone who is fully engaged in their own life. When you reignite your own spark, you become magnetic. And suddenly, the dynamic shifts. The person who took you for granted starts to notice. They see the change. They feel the difference. because you're no longer giving them unlimited access to your energy. You're no longer sitting there waiting to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. And let's say they don't come back. Let's say they don't wake up one day and realize what they lost. That's still a win, because by that point, you'll be so fulfilled, so immersed in your own happiness that you won't need them to. You won't be standing in the same place hoping for a different outcome. You'll have moved forward. You'll have built something so strong within yourself that no one's neglect, no one's indifference can shake it. This isn't about playing games. It's not about making them jealous or manipulating them into missing you. It's about genuinely reclaiming your power. When someone stops valuing you, don't beg for their attention. Don't fight for a place in their life. Instead, become so engaged in your own life that their presence or absence no longer dictates your happiness. That's how you win. That's how you truly rise above. If you have to constantly explain why you deserve better, you're already in the wrong place. Think about that for a second. Because the truth is, respect is never something you should have to negotiate for. It's not a favor. It's not a privilege. It's the absolute baseline of any connection you allow into your life. And yet, how many of us find ourselves trying to convince someone to treat us the way we know we deserve to be treated? What happens when you start negotiating for something as fundamental as respect? You chip away at your own worth. You subtly tell yourself and the other person that their approval is more important than your dignity. And the moment you do that, you give them permission to continue treating you as less than what you are. Because why would they change? If you keep sticking around despite being undervalued, they will assume that's the standard you accept. The biggest mistake people make in relationships, whether romantic, friendships, even family, is thinking that if they just explain themselves one more time, if they just find the right words, then suddenly the other person will wake up and start treating them differently. But let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed that the people who truly respect you, who genuinely care, don't need to be constantly told how to treat you? They just do, because they see your value without you having to point it out. On the other hand, the ones who consistently dismiss you, disregard your feelings, or make you feel small, they aren't unaware of what they're doing. They're making a choice. And every time you engage in that back and forth, trying to make them understand, you're reinforcing the idea that your worth is up for discussion. Here's the shift you need to make. Instead of trying to convince someone to respect you, start paying attention to the ones who already do. The ones who don't require an argument, a speech, or a perfectly worded text to treat you well. The ones who just get it. Because when you stop fighting for bare minimum treatment, you free yourself to receive the love, the friendship, the connection that actually aligns with who you are. Respect is non-negotiable. If you have to keep asking for it, you're asking the wrong person. One of the most powerful things you can do when someone stops valuing you is to step back and let them feel the void you leave behind. It's counterintuitive because when we sense someone pulling away, our instinct is often to close the gap, to reach out, to overcompensate, to remind them of how good we are. But the truth is, nothing makes a person recognize value more than the experience of losing it. Think about it. We don't truly appreciate warmth until we've felt the cold. We don't crave light until we've been in the dark. People don't miss water until the well runs dry. And the same goes for relationships, romantic, platonic, or professional. When you make yourself constantly available to someone who no longer appreciates your presence, they stop seeing you as something special. You become background noise. They assume you'll always be there, no matter how little effort they put in. And that's the moment you need to step back, not as a manipulation tactic, not as a game, but as a way of honoring yourself. If someone doesn't see your worth while you're there, you must be willing to let them experience life without you in it. Because here's the hard truth. People will only value you to the extent that they believe they could lose you. If you're always there, always chasing, always proving, they never get the chance to feel what life would be like without your presence. And sometimes that's exactly what they need to wake up. We've all had moments where we took something for granted. A friend we always assumed would be there, a job we never fully appreciated until we lost it, a partner whose love we assumed was unconditional. And the moment those things disappeared, we suddenly realized their value. We replayed memories in our heads, wished we had done things differently, longed for another chance. That's human nature. And if you've ever experienced it, you know how powerful it is. Now, apply that same logic to the person who isn't valuing you. The person who doesn't call as much anymore, the one who cancels plans, who texts back when it's convenient for them, who no longer prioritizes you in their life. Instead of demanding more from them, instead of explaining why they should treat you better, instead of chasing, just step back. Give them space to miss you. Give them space to notice your absence. Because in that silence, in that distance, something interesting happens. They start to wonder, where did you go? Why aren't you texting first? Why aren't you available like you used to be? The comfort of your presence is gone. And suddenly, there's a void. And people don't like voids. They want to fill them. They start remembering the way you made them feel, the things you brought into their life, the little moments they overlooked. And in that moment, they're faced with a choice: step up or let you go for good. And here's the thing. If they truly value you, if you ever meant something to them, they will step up. They will reach out. They will show you with their actions that they don't want to lose you. And if they don't, if they just let you go, then that tells you everything you need to know. Because someone who truly values you won't risk losing you so easily. This is where most people struggle: the waiting, the not knowing, the fear that if they pull back, the other person will move on without a second thought. And that's where self-worth comes in. You have to believe that you bring something valuable to the table. You have to trust that your presence is a gift, not something to be taken for granted. And you have to be okay with the fact that if someone doesn't see that, they were never the right person for you in the first place. The people who deserve you are the ones who recognize your worth without you having to prove it to them. The ones who, when faced with the possibility of losing you, don't just let it happen. They fight for you, they show up, they do the work. And those are the people you want in your life. So if someone has stopped valuing you, don't beg, don't plead, don't over-explain. Just take a step back, give them the gift of missing you, and watch what happens next.